Hey, everybody. My name is Toby Crines. I own the Mighty Mo Design Co. in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been doing this for 18 years. I've been helping people with their WordPress work and SEO, and then some other odds and ends over time. This particular session is roughly 15 minutes. It's going to be a quick kind of 10 things you can do today to fix your broken SEO stuff. And what is SEO, you might ask? SEO is when someone goes to Google or they're on their phone and they type something that would lead them to your website. So for example, if you're selling cookies, they would type like cookie shop Minneapolis, and your SEO would have you display for them both on the Google map and then below, as long as you did it properly. So one thing I've noticed over the years, and again, we've been doing this 18 years, is oftentimes companies will have their websites redesigned and relaunched. And in that process, they will find out afterwards that their SEO was completely destroyed. And I just want to share, I have a little slide. It says, we've all been there. I've seen this so many times over the years. It's nothing to be ashamed of. What I always think is like, how do we fix it? And the quicker you act, the better the results are going to be. So I always think step one, identify the damage. Google has a really nice way to start identifying the damage. If you go to google.com and type site : and then your website.com, it'll show all the pages that Google has indexed for that site. So you would do, let's say your site was target.com, you would do site : target.com, and it would show all the pages. If your website is completely gone bad, you'll see one of two things. One, you'll see nothing in these results. It'll just say no pages. The second thing is you'll see weird stuff. And we can address both these. We're going to address both these scenarios over the course of the next 14 minutes or so. There's another tool Google has. It's called Google Search Console. And you should if you don't have this already set up, it's worth setting up today. It's free, and it can help you both today and down the road if your site loses SEO value. This is a place to look for diagnostic tools and whatnot, and it'll help diagnose problems. Additionally, within that tool, Google Search Console, there's a pages feature where you can get a lot of data on all the issues that Google Search Console is seeing. So it'll see 404 errors, pages with redirect, just like things that it is flagging as potential issue. Now, just because Google says something's potentially an issue doesn't mean that it's an issue. So what this is showing is pages that aren't indexed. And so it could be that you have a bunch of pages that are redirecting and you do not want to index them. That's very common. 404 errors, oftentimes you can kind of ignore, but if you click in here in Google, it'll tell you which sites specifically are having, or it's flagging. And oftentimes you'll see them, you go, that's not even a page. That's a normal scenario here. And then you'll see some other stuff, and you can click through and see exactly which pages Google is referencing here. So again, just another place to diagnose issues. Finally, there's a free tool called Screaming Frog that is another tool to use. And I always recommend use all three. If you don't know where to start, they're all free. And all three tools give you a good high level analysis of are there problems. And so you'll kind of look through these and decide, again, even though it's flagging 13,000 URLs, is that an issue? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but you can click in there and kind of look around. Security issues, you can kind of click through these and dig a little deeper and ask yourself if these are problems. So once you've decided or you've discovered there is a problem with one of those three tools, you go to step number two. Oftentimes URLs will be broken when you change or when you redesign a site. For example, sometimes you'll have a page called our-services or about-me or contact-us. And when you redesign, you oftentimes remove one of those words. So rather than our services, you'll switch it to services. Rather than about us, you'll say about. And oftentimes those will Google, you won't take this action here, which is to provide anytime you do that, you should create a 301 redirect on the site. Thankfully, with WordPress, which is 40% of the internet, which is by far the biggest, most widely used platform, WordPress makes this really easy. Every SEO plugin pretty much has this tool built into it. Odds are your site already has one of these plugins and tools built in. So oftentimes it will create these 301 redirects automatically. However, with redesigns, because of the process that you're using, oftentimes that's missed. So you might just need to manually add those. Step number 3, make sure your site isn't blocking Google. This is like surprisingly common, particularly with WordPress, because WordPress has this little checkbox here that you can see. I'm going to switch this view. I just realized it was focusing on me. There's a little checkbox here, and you'll want to make sure that's unchecked. It's under settings reading here in the menu. And if it's checked, then nothing's going to show up in Google. And so you'll just want to uncheck that. It's dead simple, but it's something that is missed a lot of times, surprisingly a lot. And you might be asking, why does that checkbox exist? Well, the reason is because when you're building a new site, or you have a staging site or some development work happening, you oftentimes don't want that stuff to show up in Google. You only want your live URL to show up. So that's why it exists. Step 4, review and resubmit your XML sitemap to Google Search Console. So this is another tool that Google Search Console has. Once you relaunch your site and you fix the redirects, you're going to want to resubmit your sitemap to Google. And if you haven't submitted it, then you'll want to do it the first time. And WordPress, again, makes this easy. Pretty much every SEO plugin has this tool built in. And it's just a URL that you get from your website. You put it in Google Search Console under the sitemaps section. And that gives you the ability to control what Google indexes in and what has potential to show up in the results. For example, you might exclude images from the result, or maybe you're a photographer and you want to make sure those are included. So you'll want to address that on your site. If you have a WordPress site, you'll go to your SEO plugin and just make sure the things that you want to show up in the search are available. Things you don't want are not available. There are good reasons to not index them. You might be asking, why don't I just want everything indexed? There are good reasons not to. What we're learning in the last year or so, maybe more than that, is that Google, I'm going to paraphrase here, but Google looks at, basically they go, what is this site about and what percentage of this site is about that thing? So let's say you're selling cookies. Let's stick with that. You have cookies, you have about our cookie company, and then you have a bunch of cookie options to buy. But you also planned an event that maybe you were a guest at, that really had nothing to do with cookies. Maybe you were just bringing your cookies there as a promotional thing. Google might see that and it might not help your SEO. It might hurt your SEO. And so that's just a really rough example, but there are times where you don't want to include everything in the sitemap. You'll want to make sure, if you find something that you want removed from Google Search Console has this removals tool. You click new request, then just paste the URL in. It's really simple. You'll find oftentimes, and when you go to site:yourdomain.com, you'll see stuff in there sometimes. Even today, like, we make a standard practice of going there and just checking the results to say, what's showing up here? Is this what we want to show up in the Google search? And so sometimes we'll remove pages or URLs here that used to be high quality for us, but are no longer part of our strategy. Step 6, find and fix 301 redirects, infinite redirect loops, 404 errors. So this is an expansion of that original 301 slide from earlier. You'll find, particularly when you relaunch a site, you'll pull up issues that existed prior, but you'll also have created some issues. So particularly redirect loops seem to be part of when you relaunch, you want to be particularly, you want to look for those basically. And 404 errors, 404 means the page doesn't exist, but it's in the Google index. And so let's say you use a tool such as this broken link checker, which is a WordPress plugin. You can also use any of the professional grade SEO tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush. And let's say you find a handful of 404s that you want to remove, or let's say it's more than a handful, let's say it's 100, and it's like all the same URL that maybe links to a page that no longer exists. You can use a plugin like Better Search Replace in WordPress, and you can say, replace all 100 instances of that URL with this one, this updated one. And so with one click of the mouse, you can update all 100 pages. So there are tools like that that can help you quite a bit. Once you do that, you want to make sure your site's meta tags are looking good. And one great way to do this is do that site:/domain.com, or you can do a Google search and see how your site shows up. But what we're talking about with the meta tags really is what is showing up in the Google search result. There's this Chrome extension called Detailed that'll give you all that. You just visit the page, it'll tell you all the details. Also, SEO plugins in WordPress, for example, have all that laid out really nicely for you. But what you want to do is just make sure that this is, by the way, this WordPress support in Minneapolis thing you see here, this is the SEO meta title, and this smaller text is SEO meta description. Now, Google oftentimes will put something else there, and this is like Google's AI brain. Sometimes it'll be like, no, I think it's actually this, and it'll put other stuff there. But you have at least some degree of control. And by the way, this stuff, based on all the research that we've been doing in the last year or so, this is not super helpful to SEO because it's so easily gamed. Google just doesn't really rank it as like a ranking factor. It might have some very small percentage of ranking factor, but I share this mostly because what we try to do is make this sales copy, basically marketing copy. Like, what do we want people to see when they Google something? Let's say you're in the cookie business, cookies near me. What do you want them to see? Maybe you don't want them to see your company name, because maybe you want to say organic cookie company or something instead of your official brand. And so just things to keep in mind as you deal with SEO meta. Step 8, after you've done all that, you're going to want to speed up your brand new, really, really, really slow site. This is kind of a sad tale, but I see it over and over and over again, where companies will invest a good chunk of change to rebuild the site, redesign it, rebuild it, write new copy. Maybe they even hire an SEO company to help write the copy. And then they'll launch it, and it'll be really slow. At the Mighty Mo, for example, we build in, our process includes a speed up as part of our thing. When we're all done with all the work, we go through and make sure everything's running speedy. Also, as we build the site, we're optimizing images and videos and stuff like that. So we're keeping that in mind as we go. But oftentimes, companies will not do that extra work. And so you'll find after you launch that you need to update it. And that can be kind of a heavy lift, because oftentimes some of those early decisions in the tooling will slow down the site. And there's oftentimes not clear ways to speed it up. However, let's say you go through it, your site's slow, you can check out the media. Like, are you loading huge images or are they small images? That sort of thing can be pretty easily fixed in WordPress, for example. You could just re-upload optimized versions of those images. And there's also tools in WordPress that can help with that. Like there's WP Rocket is one, but there's a bunch of others that Smush is another one that can squeeze images and make them less big. There's this tool that Google provides for page speed. This is to get a benchmark where you go to Google page. If you go to Google and type Google page speed, you'll go to this page that Google provides, and you type your URL in, and it'll give you a score, and then it'll tell you things you can improve. This can sometimes help. However, I got to be honest with you, you're probably going to need a developer to translate this, and therefore you will likely need some budget. Finally, I always like to think about conversions. Like, so you did all this work, you invested a bunch in design, you invested a bunch maybe in SEO, you invested a bunch building it, maybe you paid to speed it up. Don't forget about the most important thing, which is conversions. whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit company, this is why websites exist. Websites are a marketing tool, but they're a very special marketing tool because they can convert in ways that other tools cannot. First of all, they're an entry point oftentimes, and so you can convince people to take the next step. So the question is, I always like to ask, for each landing page, does it have the right words that matches, we call it search intent, but let's say someone's looking for that cookie, they go, cookie near me, they find your site in Google, they click on it. Does it meet them in that moment with the right content? Like, is it providing delicious looking cookie pictures and telling them where to go next? And so I always like to, we do this up front when we do like an SEO project, but also we do it after we launch, even in those cases, because we're always revisiting the same question and ask this question here. Are the CTAs on the page consistent with the search intent? And again, that's the idea, like, are we helping people get to the next step? And can we do that better? I always think step 10, this is, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. This is SEO, WordPress, really anything digital web. I have a lot of experience with. I have a team that's well-versed. I have a senior SEO pro on our team. I have senior WordPress developers. So we've seen a lot. Again, we've been around 18 years here in Minneapolis. We've seen a ton of, I want to say everything, but I'm always surprised too. So, but you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, on email. You can go to our website, fill out our contact form. Every initial conversation will be free. We're never going to send you a bill for that or anything like that. So if you have questions, you can leave them in this LinkedIn or on this video, or this is my contact info. Thanks for joining us today. Let me know what you found valuable, what you didn't. Maybe share some of your experiences if you have some that you think might be helpful for others. But thanks again. We'll see you soon.